Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to London. Now, as the title of this video will have already told you, today I'm going to be unboxing my new camera. Canon G7X Mark II that I use for making YouTube videos. Well, I've diversified now on other platforms for making social media videos. I'm replacing my current vlogging camera, the Canon G7X Mark I, with the Mark II. This needs replacing, I'll tell you why in a moment. Filming this on a Canon S120, which was my previous vlogging camera to that one. What I'm going to do is unbox this, tell you why I bought it, compare it physically to that. So if you're one of my regular subscribers and interested in life here in London, this may be of no interest to you whatsoever, and I'll see you in the next video. However, if you make videos, you're thinking about making videos, or you just want some insight into behind the scenes, yeah, hopefully this will give you some insight into what I use, why I use it, and if you're in the market for a new camera or make YouTube videos, whether the Canon G7X Mark II is a suitable camera for you, or it might be unsuitable for you based on what you see. All I'm going to do is unbox it, compare it physically to the Mark I, tell you why I bought it. So there won't be any test footage. This is all going to be filmed on a Canon S120. I'm going to make a separate video for test footage because it just gets a little bit confusing using 3 different cameras that I've got. So yeah, separate videos for test footage. I will tell you why I bought it. Watch my future videos if you want to see test footage from the camera. If you want to see test footage of the G7X Mark I, just watch all my previous videos. All my videos have in the description below them the camera used, and probably a link to a video like this reviewing it in some way. So yeah, first things first, let's dive into the box. So I'll bring you a little bit closer so you can see exactly what you can expect in the box if you buy one.
Okay, my Canon G7X Mark I is on the right. On the left in the box is the G7X Mark II, so I'm going to compare them both physically. I'm hoping the batteries are identical because then I've got a spare. Okay, while I unbox this G7X Mark II, let me explain why I chose this camera out of all the many cameras available right now. Maybe you're considering purchasing a vlogging camera, maybe you're just interested in some behind the scenes to making these videos. Either way, it will give you some insight and maybe answer some questions you might have. Picking the perfect vlogging camera for you is almost always going to be a compromise of some sort depending on the types of video you make, and that's regardless of the cost. And then once you bring the money into the equation, there are going to be even further compromises. 3 key points are the physical size of the camera, the quality of the footage and sound, and the cost. In terms of size of general vlogging cameras, there are effectively 3 choices, excluding special kit like GoPros and drones, etc. So the smallest being a phone. Then compact cameras and consumer video cameras are the mid-sized. And then at the large end of the scale you have pro cameras, DSLRs and high-spec video cameras. If you film indoors or with the camera on a tripod, the size of the camera is less important, but if you travel and vlog handheld like I do, it's a bigger consideration. I want the smallest camera possible with the highest quality. Phones are great and I use my phone for live video, but the image quality and image stabilisation is better on a compact camera and even better again on a DSLR or high-spec video camera. I walk and talk in crowds, so a DSLR with a huge mic is not practical for me, and neither is having a camera person to film me. So for me right now, compact cameras like the G7X are perfect. They're a perfect compromise between the quality of a DSLR and being nearer the pocket size of a phone. The G7X is pushing the limits of being pocket size. It only really fits comfortably in my coat pocket. As I said, I do vlog live on my phone. If you're starting out, definitely get started on your phone. I have to stabilise the footage within YouTube after filming, which crops it a little bit and makes it wavy in places, but that's better than the raw shake you get. The audio's not too bad either. They are getting better all the time. I've got a 2-year-old phone right now. The latest phones are good enough for making YouTube videos. If you add a mic and a stabilising gimbal handle, you'd be halfway to a high-end compact camera. So I use compact cameras because they're an improvement over phone footage, less so an improvement over the audio. The audio of compact cameras is not great, but it is an improvement and still a reasonable size for me to walk and talk to for quite a fair distance without feeling like I've just arm wrestled someone and lost. So the next consideration after size is image and audio. Now, The best image is really a matter of personal opinion, which is why there are so many different cameras available and no overwhelming winner when it comes to the best vlogging camera. You need to pick the camera with results you like the most. I like the Canons. That's not entirely true. Every manufacturer seems to have different presets in terms of the raw image or video, colour, saturation, shadows, the brightness, the sharpness, and all of that. Now, in many instances you can adjust it, and you can certainly colour grade the footage or images after, but I don't often have time to colour grade videos. I wish I did, but I don't. So for me, I think Leica camera images look the best, so ideally I'd get a Leica camera, but they focus mainly on still photography, and the video image stabilisation looks terrible right now. Panasonic have cameras with Leica lenses. Again, they look phenomenal for stills or video on tripods, but handheld the focus and stabilisation is not as good as the Sony or Canon compacts. The two main manufacturers dominating the YouTube vlogging market right now are Sony and Canon, both for compact cameras and the bigger pro cameras. For me, the images look very similar. Sony have a cooler image, Canon a slightly warmer image, and I prefer the warmer Canon look. If you're colour grading, the Sony might be better for you. It might be a better option. Sony always look better on spec sheets, but the footage usually looks almost identical from comparable models. Right now, Sony offer 4K in the RX100 model, directly competing with the G7X Mark II, but it doesn't film long enough for me to use. And when you use 4K, other aspects are reduced. I'd like 4K, I'd love 4K, but the RX100s will not film long enough for my videos right now. So for me right now, the choice really boils down to the latest Sony RX100 or the latest Canon, the latest G7X. I personally prefer the warmer look of the Canons to the cooler tone of the Sony, so it's a bonus that the Canon costs less. The autofocus has always been criticised since day one of these cameras. It's not perfect, it's still not perfect. If anything, the better these cameras get, the worse it gets, because the footage gets better and better, so it's becoming more noticeable if or when you're out of focus. But ultimately for me, the choice between Sony and Canon came down to nothing more than the preferred raw colour, the tone of the footage. Other than that, it's hard to tell them apart. The biggest difference in footage from the G7X Mark I and the G7X Mark II is an increase in the depth of field on the Mark II. It looks phenomenal. It does process faster, so the autofocus is improved, and it adapts faster in changing light situations. However, as I said earlier, the improvements in the image and depth of field go against the autofocus when it gets it wrong. The main thing is turn the touchscreen function off if you're vlogging handheld. I use a handle, and I use a small tripod as a handle. I'll show you that in a moment. And I still turn the touch operation off. It prevents you accidentally using touchscreen focusing. Either way, if you're choosing between the Sony RX100 and the Canon G7X, you're going to film amazing footage, good enough to watch on a big screen TV. The autofocus will not always be perfect, but even when it goes wrong, it will be usable for most YouTube vlogs. The thing is with YouTube, unlike other platforms, the audience in the main is pretty negative and critical of absolutely everything, except the actual footage and sound quality. Unless you set your channel up as a filmmaker and cinematographer, and then you'll be told all your footage and all your audio is rubbish. The quality and the gear used, it's the main thing creators concern themselves with, and the main thing people worry about. But it's the very thing this very unforgiving audience seem in general to care the least about. I only upgraded from the G7X Mark I to the Mark II because my Mark I was on its last legs. The Mark II is an improvement, but I would still run my Mark I into the ground before upgrading, in the hopes maybe the Mark III or something comes along. It's not a big enough jump to warrant the expense. Okay, the G7X Mark II does have a lot more features than the Mark I, but here's the thing with compact cameras, almost all of those features are for still photography, not video. Let's just compare the Mark I and the Mark II physically. Almost identical, they feel very similar. The great thing is they both use the same battery, which is a bonus for me because now I've got more spare batteries. The main difference is the screen articulates a little bit more on the Mark II. I've already used the G7X Mark II and I would recommend it. Is it the perfect video camera? No. But right now, it's the perfect camera for me to make YouTube videos. It's a compromise, it's better quality visually than a phone. The audio's pretty good, it gets better outdoors with a micro muff, but that's a different story. It's not an inexpensive camera, but it's considerably less than a DSLR camera and lenses. It's easier to use and it's a fraction of the size, but the DSLR or high-end video cameras will give you a better image. The choice of lenses gives you greater scope, and the biggest improvement with DSLRs is the option of external microphones for improved audio. Here you can see the little Manfrotto tripod I use as a handle. These cameras are compact cameras, but they're still pretty big. It's quite difficult to maneuver them without the risk of dropping them. So yeah, I definitely recommend getting one of those handles. I'll make a separate video about that, why I got one and why I use it. Okay, if you'd like to see test footage of the G7X Mark I, watch previous videos and vlogs to this one. If you'd like to see test videos of the G7X Mark II, later videos and vlogs, the camera used will always be in the description of the video. Toodles!